Whoa, it's the 440 from the General Mayhem 68 Dodge Charger. We have built this thing into a real basic thumper, but can it beat the 707 horsepower from the Dodge Hellcat? This is a really big day for me because that is the Dodge 440 big block engine that is going back in the 68 Dodge Charger known as the General Mayhem. So let me give you a little background on that car if you're not aware of the other show that I do that's called Roadkill. In the very early days of that show, me and my co-host Mike Finnegan took a 68 Dodge Charger shell, just a stripped out hulk of a car that I had traded for a set of big block cylinder heads, and we turned it into a runner by pulling a 440 out of a motorhome, and we got it running and driving, and we went out into the desert and just blasted the thing into the sunset, drove it through a bunch of puddles, and it was just like the greatest feel-good car ever, and we loved it. Then we took it up to Dirtfish Rally School in Washington and had just an epic day sliding it around there, and that moment right there is one of my greatest ever on the Roadkill show. After that happened, we got into a completely different phase of the General Mayhem. Dodge put us up to this whole race with the guys from Gas Monkey Garage that was going to happen at this event called Roadkill Nights, which is a street race in Pontiac, Michigan. It's a legal street race. And for that race, we converted the car at Diversified Creations with a complete brand new Dodge Hellcat drivetrain. The engine, the trans, and every speck of wiring, the fuel system, everything went in that car. And it also turned into sort of a drag race car. It ran, I think, a best of 1067 one night in Oklahoma. And it was super cool. We even took that one back to Dirtfish, blasted it around. And that car, I'll tell you, did the greatest burnouts probably in the history of Roadkill. But ultimately, I never saw the General Mayhem as a drag racing car. And so I bought it back from the company. And on our show called Roadkill Garage that I do with Steve Dulcich, my co-host right here on Engine Masters, he and I are taking that Charger, removing the Hellcat drivetrain, removing all of the modern stuff, and returning it to the original motorhome 440 goodness. But I also want to level it up just a little bit. So that story brings us to this moment right here. This is the original 440 block that Finnegan and I pulled out of that motorhome. But as I said, it's been leveled up. My whole goal here was to build an engine that was very practical and repeatable for the average guy, not a bunch of super wazoo high-end stuff. And I initially put it all together with a flat tappet camo with stock cylinder heads, and I gotta tell you the truth. It was a waste of money because as we've seen so many times these days, the flat tappet lifters failed on the dyno, wiped it all out, and I had to take the whole engine back apart, or actually I had James Bostic at Bostic Racing Engines in Yuma, Arizona do that all for me. And so I was money behind on that, and we put it back together with a hydraulic roller cam and some different cylinder heads. Still, I think a pretty basic engine. Let's go through it. Once again, the block is regular old motorhome stuff. The crank is a forged 440 crank that I bought for $100 like I don't know, 20 years ago at the Pomona swap meet. It does have aftermarket H-beam rods in it. The reason for that, the aftermarket rods, is that the piston pin size on a Chrysler big block is 1 inch 094, I believe. It's big hankin'. A lot of the aftermarket pistons use a 990 pin, 0.990 inches, which is typical of a big block Chevy. They do that to lighten it up. And so I was able to buy a cheaper set of pistons because I upgraded the rods. And those are a JE SRP line of pistons. They're giving me about 10¼ to 1 compression in this thing. The cylinder heads are a set that we tested in an earlier episode of Engine Masters. They're from 440 Source. They are the cheapest aftermarket aluminum heads for a big block Chrysler that I have come across. You tell me if you found anything cheaper and better. It's $1,000 for 2 of them. And the great thing about them is that they look stock. We painted these black, and you can see they've got the core plug in the end of them, they've got the right shape, and I wanted this to look stock, look like the original Motorhome 440, so that's what those are. The camshaft is a custom that we got from Schneider Cams, because once again, they turned it around for me like that. The specs on it are 244 and 244 duration at 50, meaning that the specs for duration are the same on the intake and the exhaust, and so's the lift at 555, and it's on a 110-degree lobe separation angle, and it is a hydraulic roller. We're using it with stock rocker arms, again, keeping it cheap and light. Now, the intake manifold we're gonna begin with is right here. It's a Holley Street Dominator. I had one of these in the 80s on my Super Bee that I bought out of the back of a trunk at the street races. This might be that same one, although you can still buy that intake manifold. And the carburetor that we're gonna run is another one that I have had for at least 2 decades. It's a Holley 830 CFM HP carburetor. What we're gonna do is start with those basic components and this set of TTI shorty headers, because what I'm doing here is trying to discover the configuration of this engine that I most want to reinstall into the General Mayhem. I want to find out what headers, what intake, and what carb spacers are going to work out best for me for the application. Now, we're not just testing tube diameter because the design of all these headers is a little bit different. What I'm really trying to do is find out what practical set of off-the-shelf headers I can actually install in the car. We're also going to find out what the best intake manifold is, starting with the old school Holley Street Dominator single plane, and then we're going to move on to the Mopar version of an Edelbrock Performer RPM intake manifold. And of course, at the end, as you can see, we will be fiddling around with nitrous oxide, because I will tell you this, I've got to beat the 707 horsepower that was in the Hellcat that came out of the car. 707 horsepower. You probably are guessing we can do it on nitrous, but how much power can this basic 440 make with average parts? We're gonna sit down with the Steves, and then I cannot wait to roll this on the dyno and find out what kind of grunt it makes. It's another self-serving episode with an engine for one of my cars, and I'm stoked on it.
Yeah, we were going to try this a while back and just ran out of time, so.
Ran out of time, we ran out of camshaft.
Okay, I wasn't going to say that out loud.
This is our second attempt on this pooch.
Well, this one is not going to have that same problem. It has a little roller on the end of the wheel, so.
Much more gooder.
Yeah.
All right, 440 Master. By the end of the day, what will this thing make? Power and torque.
How about torque and power? 540 foot-pounds, 535 horsepower.
Whoa, 535 is a big number. I had estimated the 540, but I don't think it'll carry enough RPM to do that.
Well, I mean, horsepower will equal torque at 55 or 52, 52, so it sure isn't going to peak that low, I hope. Otherwise, you've got a very poochy engine.
I thought it might run to 59 for the peak power, maybe 6.
I don't get to guess, do I?
You don't get to guess because you know.
No, I don't know.
One thing I know, it isn't going to do any of this with those headers on it.
No,
You hate those headers.
Well, they just don't do enough to warrant having them there.
The big problem with those is I wanted to test them because I didn't want a header hanging low on this car because I know that I'm gonna like drive it on dirt and take it to the rally school and stuff like that. I didn't want to drag headers. That's why I wanted to test this. But what's gonna keep me from ever using it in the car is the spark plug to header clearance.
Plus, you're going to give up a lot of horsepower with that kind of header.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out.
Yes, I predict 40.
40? Well, let's fire it up, run it, and then immediately change to long tubes and find out if you're right.
Yeah.
Ready?
Ready.
We'll go.
I'm impressed. I'm happy.
I was biting my tongue when we were first discussing this because Dulcich just threw the dart right to the bullseye. And I'm trying to keep a straight face about it. Man, he just drills it right to the number.
Well, we both called it on the torque, but I didn't think it would quite get there on the horsepower, and it's going to by the time we put headers on this thing. Let's have a look at the power numbers, just so we can gloat.
Well,
Step one with our shorty headers is impressive so far. 541.2 pound-feet of torque, and it made 505.9 horsepower, which means it's gonna get to the 540 that you predicted for horsepower, but by the time we put different headers and stuff on it.
Maybe.
Not quite?
you know. It's gonna be 540, I can tell you that.
It's gonna be a lot better. Wow, that's actually really good. Okay, cooling them down and going to 1 3/4 long tube. Here we go. This thing is getting better. 550 pound-feet of torque at 4,300 RPM. We bumped up the horsepower just a little bit, 512.6 at 5,500 RPM. But as per usual, the whole story is going to be in graphing the shorty versus the long tube. Yeah, train tracks.
Better everywhere.
Yep, better everywhere.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. That gives you a real solid indication of what you're gonna see in the car if you wanna make this decision between the shorties and the long tubes. It's just literally better everywhere. As a matter of fact, the torque is slightly more of a gap down here than it is.
I saw like 25 or 30 when I rolled in.
Yeah. So yeah, that's huge. How about the 1 7/8?
I think it's time.
Yeah, let's go. Here's our power with the 1 7/8 inch header. 550.7 pound-feet of torque at 4,300 RPM, 522.8 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, which is up 10 from the 1 3/4 inch header. And I noticed that the RPM at peak torque and horsepower is not changing at all.
Not changing.
Yeah.
10 horsepower. Who'd have thought?
Is that what you said? It is what he said.
I know, I heard
Yeah,
him.
but let's look at the overlay versus the smaller 1 3/4 inch header.
Whoa.
Okay, this is really strange.
That's what I just said.
The bigger tube made way more torque down here.
I'll bet if we measure the primary length,
Yeah.
these 1 7/8 are longer primaries.
are.
So's the collector.
Yeah, okay.
On
Yeah.
average.
And that's
Yep.
where that's coming from.
You're gonna look at the shorties too?
Yeah.
Okay, that explains a lot. Yeah, there's just,
So are you gonna run any shorties?
no, there's no world where you do that unless you've got a stock 440.
Packaging problem.
Yeah, a
You know,
packaging
and a stock-
problem
and
or
a
a
stock
440
engine.
that makes 350 horsepower. Let's make the change. Intake manifold and headers coming up. Incrementally more bester, more
Big
gooder.
torque.
Yes, big
the
torque.
torque down at the hip
Yeah.
seemed like it was huge.
Yeah, through the mid-range. I don't know if you guys saw any numbers fly by, but it was
Monster.
big. Yeah.
Let's have a look. 563.3 pound-feet of torque and 527.8 horsepower. Here's what you need to compare it to. You're, in your mind, thinking about that 2 1/8 inch header and the high-end number on that, which was 529.7. But in fact, with this header, the 1 7/8 inch header, we just improved from 522.8 to 527.8. So it meets the Dulcich standard of more horsepower. And let's have a look at what it did to the torque curve, because I think it's gonna be monster.
What would you like to compare it with?
The 1 7/8 inch header. Look at that. The black lines are the RPM dual plane intake. There is no question that that's the intake that's going in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no place where it's worse. It matches that Street Dominator single plane in here, but
yes, there's just literally no discussion.
There's no discussion.
That's way better.
It is the manifold. And you know what? That Street Dominator, which by the way, he talked them into continuing to manufacture, is pretty good. It's got fairly long runners for a single plane. It's not like a TM7 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a good single plane. It was excellent in testing where I did a manifold test for a magazine article with 20 different manifolds. But that RPM is compelling. Look at all that torque you pick up, and you even pick up some top end.
But wait, there's more.
I think I know where he's going, Brule.
Yeah. You know, there's a reason I didn't tell you what the air-fuel ratio was when I walked out here.
Because it's rich right now?
Yes.
Okay, fix it. We're gonna put a spacer on it, which will lean it out just a little bit and hopefully make just a hair more top-end power.
We'll see.
I like this motor. Well, look at that. We're making our best peak power numbers ever. 564.2 pound-feet of torque at 4,100 RPM and 536.1 horsepower at 5,600. Both records for what we've done so far today.
You wanted to see an overlay?
I want to see an overlay without the spacer because I'm worried about what we might have lost in torque all the way down at 3,500. There we go. Our spacer is in black and the manifold alone with no spacer is in red. And sure enough, it did give up a little bit down here, but nowhere near enough that I'm not gonna go ahead and use it. That's really good.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, the averages are much better.
Yeah, no, I would definitely give up this to get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's good. So let's look at our last pull and let's go all the way back to where we started with this engine, with the other intake manifold and with the shorty headers. I want everybody to see just how much power we bolted onto this thing throughout the day. Oh!
You know, doesn't that really tell a story though? If a guy can pick the right parts.
Yeah.
And you know, realistically, there's probably, what, a couple $100 difference total in parts between the shorty headers, the long tubes, intake manifolds, are probably the same price. It's the same carburetor and you put a spacer on, whether it be aluminum or wood.
A phenolic resin cheapie.
You know, yeah, I mean, you know, if you bolt on parts, all of a sudden it's a different engine.
And what's crazy is we were happy at the start. We were impressed with what it did with those, you know, headers and manifolds. Wow. Okay, I'm stoked on this, but then...
Are we done? Ooh, not quite.
This came out of a Charger with a Hellcat. A Hellcat makes 707 horsepower. So how much of a nitrous hit do we need to have to make 707 horsepower?
30% of the engine's output is like a nice nitrous number, and it's very dependable, and it doesn't hurt anything. It's not like you're trying to press it to 60% of the engine's output or big numbers. So at 36, 160.
So in all, we're gonna go Sunoco 116 octane, Zex nitrous plate, and pull the timing back to 30 degrees total.
You got it.
And how about use a 1-inch plate with the 1/4-inch nitrous plate?
Yeah, puts
get
us
us right
at an
back
inch
to
and
the same
3/4,
place.
kind of the same height. I'm good with all of that.
Cool.
All right.
Yes.
I can't
he
wait.
Said yes. I'm winning. How does that song go? It's kind of like that, isn't it?
It really shouldn't go any further with you.
It makes 753 pound-feet and 753 horsepower at almost the same RPM. Monster. So you hit the button down here at 4,500 RPM, and look how long it takes for it to actually hit and then rise before it hits the peak number.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we knew, is that it'd take 500 to get up there, and it came right in at 5,000 and carried, and we ran it to 6, so.
Yep.
It's good stuff. I mean, that's a little more than we started with this morning.
Man, it's all really, really good. The motor exceeded my expectations. I mean, 564 pound-feet, 536 horsepower, not bad.
You know, nitrous or not, there's not many 750 horsepower 440s running around on the street.
Nitrous is cheating. I'm still gonna say I'm gonna go to the master right here. Is that a stout 440 considering the parts that are installed?
Oh yeah, for a regular bolt-together mild 440, and you're making that kind of torque and horsepower, that is a sweet engine. That's not like a highly exotic head. That is a budget cylinder
It's not
head.
even a slightly exotic head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the intake manifolds, the garden variety, Edelbrock Performer RPM style manifold, the headers, everything, the whole package.
Are you going to have Dulcich sign your dash as an endorsement since it's a good 440?
Like Carroll Shelby?
Yeah.
I should do that.
Yeah.
Steve Dulcich right on the
It
glove
would
box.
add some dollars.
It'll cost
great.
you. It'll cost you, bro.
Yep. You know what you guys need to do at home, though, is you need to look up the episodes of Roadkill Garage where Steve and I actually completely remade the General Mayhem over 2 or 3 episodes. We took out the Hellcat, we're putting this engine in it, and we're gonna have a whole lot of fun also in an episode of Roadkill where we plan to take it back to the Dirtfish Rally School.
Yeah, and that was your dream. Simplify the car and make it just as fun as it was the first go around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, more self-serving, awesome episodes of Engine Masters are coming your way because that's what we do pretty much every time on Engine Masters.
In the dark that ignites the sky, feet on the ground, but I'm ready to fly. Shadows can't hold me, I'm breaking free. This is the rhythm of who I'm meant to be. Feel the pulse, let it take control. Heartbeats racing, it's a thunder roll. Electric fire running through my veins, dancing wild in the pouring rain. Turn it up, let the energy rise. Flashes of light in my electric eyes. Can't stop moving, it's a fever trance. Every step is a rebel's dance. Feel the pulse, let it take control. Heartbeats racing, it's a